الله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا مس الناس ضر دعوا ربهم منيبين إليه ثم إذا أذاقهم منه رحمة إذا فريق منهم بربهم يشركون ليكفروا بما آتيناهم فتمتعوا فسوف تعلمون أم أنزلنا عليهم سلطانا فهو يتكلم بما كانوا به يشركون وإذا أذقنا الناس رحمة فرحوا بها وإن تصبهم سيئة بما قدمت أيديهم إذا هم يقنطون أولم يروا أن الله يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء ويقدر إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يؤمنون فآت ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ذلك خير للذين يريدون وجه الله وأولئك هم المفلحون وما آتيتم من ربا ليربو في أموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله وما آتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Surah Roum, last time we had read that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that it is in the nature or it is inbuilt in every human being that if they want to accept the truth and listen to the truth, then truth, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does make sense to them, and if they give off shadow of their bias, then they can become true believers. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving one example of it, which is وَإِذَا مَسَّ النَّاسَ ضُرٌّ, when the people are visited by some affliction, دَعَوْا رَبَّهُمْ مُنِيبِينَ إِلَيْهِ, they invoke their Lord with exclusive concentration on Him. So this is the nature of even the kuffar at times, that they don't want to believe in any God, but when they are severely afflicted with some calamity, they also start calling after God. And was the case of the mushrikeen, who are the prime address of this at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Makkans, that they would call after Allah whenever any hardship would come and any enemy would attack them, they would be stuck in the sea, or if they would have any loss in terms of food, any disease or affliction would come and attack them, they would call after Allah alone. ثُمَّ إِذَا أَذَاقَهُم مِّنْهُ رَحْمَةً, then when we give them a taste of the mercy of Allah. So ثُمَّ إِذَا أَذَاقَهُم مِّنْهُ رَحْمَةً, then once He gives them a taste of His mercy, إِذَا فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ بِرَبِّهِمْ يُشْرِكُونَ, a group of them starts at once associating partners to Allah, to their Lord. لِيَكْفُرُوا بِمَا آتَيْنَاهُمْ, so as to become ungrateful for what He gave to them, what we gave to them. So this means that kufr is an act of extreme thanklessness, that Allah is the one who brings you out of problems, and then you start being thankless, ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and start doing kufr. فَتَمَتَّعُوا فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, so enjoy for a bit. فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, very soon you will come to know. أَمْ أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانًا فَهُوَ يَتَكَلَّمُ بِمَا كَانُوا بِهِ يُشْرِكُونَ, the mushrikeen said that we believe in Allah alone, and then we also ascribe partners to Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that أَمْ أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانًا, is it that we sent down to them any authority, فَهُوَ يَتَكَلَّمُ بِمَا كَانُوا بِهِ يُشْرِكُونَ, that speaks to them about their associating partners with Him. When you know that Allah is one, and when you accept and agree that Allah is one, then has that Allah ever told you to ascribe partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why are you doing shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وَإِذَا أَذَقْنَا النَّاسَ رَحْمَةً فَرِحُوا بِهَا وَإِن تُصِبْهُمْ سَيِّئَةٌ بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ إِذَا هُمْ يَقْنَطُونَ. When we give people a taste of mercy, they are happy with it. And if they are touched by an evil because of what their hands had sent ahead, they are at once in despair. So the essence of this is that at any rate they have such a weak connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that for every tiny little thing, be it positive or negative, they are willing to give up their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gives them a taste of mercy, Allah gives them good times, they forget Allah and start becoming happy in ways that are displeasing to Allah and celebrating their associate gods. And when Allah puts them in some hard time, some hardship, even if it touches them, they start complaining and they start becoming desperate. إِذَا هُمْ يَقْنَطُونَ, they are at once in despair. So desperation in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is a sign of kufr, is a feature of mushrikeen. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. Do they not know, do they not see that Allah is the one who extends provision to whomsoever He wills and straightens it, tightens it for whomsoever He wills. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Surely in this there are signs for a people who believe. So when we know, and this is what the kuffar of that time also believed, the mushrikeen, that provision is in the hands of Allah. So when they know and when you can experience this, then why is it that you despair in the mercy of Allah when hard times come, and why is it that you become too happy when good times come? It is in the hands of Allah. So in either situation, turn to Allah. فَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that when you know that you are given whatever you are given by Allah, then do what Allah has told you to do with it, which is fulfill the rights of Dhal Qurba. Dhal Qurba is your relatives, and relatives includes Dhawil Arham, which are the blood relatives, and also other relatives or needy people in the community. To spend on oneself and the blood relatives carries much more reward than spending on other relatives. But when one has fulfilled the needs of others in terms of those who are their blood relatives, then one should also consider other relatives. They also have a right upon a person whom Allah has given. The ulama have written that when somebody's blood relatives are in need and they spend elsewhere, then their spending is not praiseworthy in the eyes of Allah. First, one should spend on their relatives, blood relatives, which are brothers, sisters, mother, father, children, uncles that are related by blood, aunts that are related by blood. Wal miskeen, and the needy, wabna sabil, and the wayfarer. ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ. That is better for those who seek Allah's pleasure. So this spending should be seeking the pleasure of Allah and not for any other reason. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. When one spends on these people for the sake of Allah, seeking the pleasure of Allah, then that is the best for them. And they are the ones, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, they are the ones who are eternally successful. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِّبًا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُو عِندَ اللَّهِ. This refers to when somebody gives to somebody in expectation that they are going to return, and such kind of expectations are there in every culture, in our culture as well and in the Arabs as well. They would give and then they would expect that when the time comes, this person will definitely, because they are under the burden of my favor, they would return at least what I have given them or even more. So Allah is using the word riba for it. Riba literally means increase, but it was generally well-known information in the time, at that time and today as well, that riba refers to interest. So Allah is hinting towards this being some sort of coming close to riba or interest, although technically riba only means increased amount. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِّبًا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُو عِندَ اللَّهِ. Whatever increased amount you give so that it may increase in the wealth of the people, it does not increase with Allah. So if you give it in this manner, then it does not hold value in the eyes of Allah. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ. And whatever zakah you give, which means that you give in purity with pure intention, seeking Allah's pleasure with it, turiduna wajha Allah, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. Such are the people who will multiply their wealth in reality with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The recommendation for the giver is that they should have no expectation. Any hadiyah, any atiyah that we are giving, we should have no expectation, zero expectation from the receiver. But the recommendation of the Prophet ﷺ for the receiver is that when they get some gift or something from somebody, then they should return it. And the noble habit of the Prophet ﷺ was that whenever somebody would give him a gift, he would definitely return it at some other occasion, at appropriate occasion, with something better. So this is the teaching for us, that give something to the person who's giving to us, but don't make it look like you are paying them back. Rather, wait for the right occasion, wait for the right opportunity, and then also give them gift. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.